Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and good morning, Naps family. Great to have you here on the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. It's great that you are listening. We've had listeners from California. We've had listeners from Indiana, Florida, Alabama, wherever you're from. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I'm Robert Wakefield, your host, the president of Branch 32. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Got a great show lined up for you. So let's go ahead and pour that first cup. This season, we pause to reflect on the spirit of gratitude. And we're especially thankful for you. To our members, to our postal family, thank you for trusting us, growing with us, and standing together through every season. From holiday mail to everyday moments, your dedication inspires everything we do. You remind us that service is more than a job, it's a legacy. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. Okay, for our first cup this morning, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you got your Saturday Cup of Joe in hand, ready to dig into something that, well, it might not be that exciting at first, but trust me, it does matter. So, we're going to talk about a subject today that I hope that you will, I hope that you'll find enjoyable. It's about the ELM, the Employees Labor Manual. How exciting is this going to be? I know. Now, before you start rolling your eyes and thinking, boy, oh boy, this is going to be a snooze fest. Well, it might be, but let me just stop you right there. The ELM is not just the dusty binder that's sitting on your shelf. It is the rule book. It's the playbook. It's the guide that shapes how we work and how we're paid and even how we're disciplined. And if you're an EAS employee, you really should be familiar with the ELM. Now, I'm not saying the ELM is the Bible, okay? Let's don't go crazy here. But what I am saying, that if you want to understand your rights, if you want to understand your responsibilities and your protections, then you need to know what's on the inside of the ELM. Now, I've been reading the ELM constantly since 2005. Okay, that's not true. That's a total falsehood. But you know what? Every time I did read it, it seems like I find a new section I didn't know about, a surprise. You stumble across something in a section that you didn't know, and you go, wait a minute, this changes everything. Take Chapter 8, for example. That's the section that's on safety, health, and environment. Yeah, that's pretty important stuff. And, of course, the one that we know the most is ELM 650, which deals with, discipline procedures for EAS employees. And we reference that one a lot, and for good reason. But today I'm going to look at a different section. I wanted to look at Section 4, Pay Administration. Because let's be honest, we don't work for the Postal Service, we work for money. And that's just the way it is. That's just how the whole thing works. So let's look at ELM 432.31. This says the basic work week. Now, I quote, here's the quote. The basic work week for full-time bargaining unit employees is defined in the applicable, easy for me to say, labor agreements. Postmasters and exempt employees are assigned as needed. Otherwise, the basic full-time work week consists of 5 regularly scheduled 8-hour days within a service week. And then it comes with a kicker, quote, and it says, note, the daily 8-hour schedule may not extend more than 10 consecutive hours. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, it's describing what the basic work week is for both bargaining unit employees and non-bargaining employees like postmasters and exempt staff. Now, the bargaining unit folks, they have their schedules defined in the labor agreements. But non-bargaining, well, they're assigned as needed. Now, in my mind, when it says assigned as needed, that usually shows up in the job posting. You may be the opener. You may be the closer. You may be the one who covers Amazon Sundays. And whatever you apply for, that's part of the deal. But I want you to notice what it said on note. Remember me reading note? That the daily 8-hour schedule may not extend more than 10 consecutive hours? Why is that important? Well, that's a pretty hard boundary. It means that if you're scheduled for 8 hours, the maximum stretch of time that schedule can cover is within 10 hours. And that in turn tells us something about lunch breaks. Now think about it. If you've got an 8-hour workday and the schedule can't extend beyond 10 consecutive hours, then the longest possible lunch break that you can take is 2 hours. That's it, 2 hours max. But here's what got me fired up. Back in about 2022, maybe 2023, I learned that an IMPU in our district was instructing an EAS supervisor to take a 5-hour lunch on Amazon Sunday. 5 hours. That's not a lunch. That's a mini vacation in the middle of your shift. I mean, come on. And let's be clear, that's not allowed. The ELM says the max is 2 hours, period. Now, you might be wondering, why would anybody tell a supervisor to take a 5-hour lunch? Well, that answer is simple, and that's to avoid paying tea time. In other words, it's a way to dodge to do the extra pay that EAS employees are entitled to. But here's the problem. That's a violation. And then it's not just a minor one. It's a direct contradiction of the ELM. Let me read you another section. This is 434.143, and it's eligible for FALSA exempt EAS additional pay. Whew, it's a lot. FLSA special exempt employees in EAS 18 positions and below are eligible for EAS additional pay if authorized to work over 8.5 hours on a scheduled day. Get this one, or any hours on a non-scheduled day, even while on temporary assignments such as to an OIC position. Well, that's crystal clear. If you're working beyond 8.5 hours, or if you're working on a day you weren't scheduled, you qualify for the additional pay. So when someone tries to stretch your lunch for 5 hours, what they're really doing is trying to erase those extra hours from the record. And that's just unfair, and it's against the rules. Now, if you want to dig deeper into the ELM, I encourage you to do so, because it's a fascinating book. You can get it online. You can get it online at the U.S. Postal Service site, and you can find the full text of ELM 432 and 434 right there that I've mentioned in this podcast. And organizations like ours, the National Association of Postal Supervisors, we often reference these sections when we're advocating for free treatment of EAS employees. So it's worth bookmarking the ELM and keep it handy. Because when you're in conversation with a manager who says, hey, you need to take a 5-hour lunch, and you don't want to rely on hearsay, you say, well, here's what Section 432 says. So here's my advice. Know the ELM. Don't wait until you're in a dispute. Don't wait until you're in trouble. Familiarize yourself now. Number 2, keep references handy. Print out key sections and put them in a folder. And finally, stand your ground. If you're instructed to take a lunch longer than 2 hours, show them the manual. That's not right. You're breaking the rules. And remember, these aren't NAPS's rules. These are the Postal Service's rules. The ELM is there to assist us in doing our job. It's not just red tape, it's protection. And the more familiar you are with it, the better equipped you'll be at handling situations like the one I described to you a while ago. So, pour yourself another cup of Joe. Maybe highlight a few sections in your copy of the Elm, because I know you have one. No, I'm sure you don't. I wouldn't have one in my house. I'll just read it online. So there you go. That's the first cup. Let's go ahead and let's pour that second cup. This Christmas, give your budget a break with a little help from the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. We're offering Christmas loans at just 12% APR. You can borrow up to $1,200 for 12 months. And here's the best part: no payments for 60 days. That's right. Shop now, pay later, and enjoy the season without the stress. Whether it's gifts, travel, or holiday cheer, we've got you covered. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. And for our second cup today, I want to talk about November. Golly, can you believe November is already gone? You know, it's one of those months that has Veterans Day and has Thanksgiving. It's the first real chill in the air that you notice. And by the time we've hit the end of the month, we've already been reminded of sacrifice, service, and gratitude. You know, it's a season that says pause and look back and give thanks. But for us postal workers, I'm retired, but for postal workers, especially supervisors at EAS, it also says this: get ready, December's coming fast. Let's be honest, the end of November, most of us are still working through leftovers. Turkey sandwiches, pumpkin pie for breakfast, you know, all that great stuff. And maybe that's the perfect metaphor. Maybe we're carrying forward the best parts of what we've already received. But gratitude isn't just a one-day feast. It's meant to be leftovers, something that we can keep reheating, reserving, and sharing with others. But here's the other side of November: anticipation. You know, that calendar flips and suddenly we're staring down December. Holiday lights go up, trees go up, Christmas parades everywhere. The pace quickens, shopping. You know, it's kind of like standing at the edge of a stage curtain. You can hear the music warming up, and you see the glow of the lights, but the show hasn't started yet. Well, that's what the end of November is like. So, here's my encouragement. Don't rush past this hinge moment. Take a breath. Write down all the things that you're grateful for so you don't forget. And then write down one thing that you're hopeful that December will bring you. Gratitude and hope. Those are twin anchors that keep us steady when the holidays get busy. So, I tell you what, December will be next week. And I hope that all of you had a great Thanksgiving. And I really appreciate all of you listening to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. And as always, share this podcast with all your NAPS friends or EAS friends. Be sure to drop me a line where you're listening from. I gave you my phone number in one of the episodes. Text me what's going on in your life. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And remember, every great weekend
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast.
We'll see you next time.
That the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com.